Throughout history, monarchs have engaged in many bizarre and sometimes shocking practices. From sleeping with the bodies of saints to testing their bed linens for poison with kisses, these rulers were often deeply entrenched in strange customs, some born out of security concerns, others from superstition or tradition. While some of these practices may seem unthinkable today, they offer a glimpse into the peculiar lives of historical figures such as Queen Elizabeth I, King Henry VII, and others. Queen Elizabeth I, the perfectionist, and her unusual beauty regimen. Queen Elizabeth I was a well-known perfectionist, especially when it came to her image. Despite the many portraits made of her, Elizabeth only approved a few, destroying those that did not flatter her. Her Secretary of State, Robert Cecil, once remarked that no painter could capture her beauty accurately, so she ordered that no more portraits be made until an artist could create one that others could copy. She even forbade the display of ugly portraits until they were improved. Elizabeth's physical appearance took a drastic hit after contracting smallpox in 1562, leaving her face scarred. To hide these scars, Elizabeth resorted to makeup made from hazardous materials. She used a foundation called ceruse, a mixture of white lead, vinegar, and occasionally arsenic. This toxic concoction gave her a ghostly white complexion, which was considered a mark of beauty and purity in that era. Over this, she applied vermilion, a bright red pigment made from mercury, to add color to her cheeks and lips. Although this makeup helped her maintain her public image, it slowly poisoned her. By applying these toxic materials daily, she likely shortened her life by several years. The Virgin Queen. Why Elizabeth never married. One of the most intriguing aspects of Elizabeth, the first reign, was her decision to remain unmarried. Known as the Virgin Queen, she resisted countless pressures to marry, despite being frequently urged to do so by her advisors and Parliament. Many believed that marrying would provide the kingdom with political stability and an heir to the throne. In 1566, Parliament tried to force Elizabeth's hand by withholding funds, but she famously declared, "I am already bound into a husband, which is the Kingdom of England." After this, the issue was never raised again. Elizabeth had several reasons for refusing to marry. If she married a foreign prince, it could weaken England's independence, and if she married an Englishman, it might lead to factional conflicts among her ministers. Nonetheless, Elizabeth skillfully used the prospect of marriage to her advantage. She entertained many suitors, but kept them waiting, ensuring that she remained at the center of European diplomacy without giving up any of her power. Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. Elizabeth Bathory, often considered one of history's most notorious female serial killers, was a Hungarian noblewoman who lived in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. Bathory, born into a prominent family, was initially betrothed to a nobleman, but she quickly developed a reputation for cruelty. By the time she was 43, rumors began to spread about her sadistic tendencies. She was accused of torturing and murdering young girls, often from her own household or local villages. According to legend, she believed that bathing in the blood of young girls would preserve her youth and beauty. Witnesses recounted horrifying stories of Bathory's brutal methods, which included stabbing, biting, burning, and starving her victims. Some reports even claimed that she drank their blood or used it in beauty treatments. While some aspects of these stories may have been exaggerated over time, her crimes were severe enough to warrant an investigation. In 1610, Bathory was arrested, and although she was never put on trial due to her noble status, she was imprisoned in her own castle, where she died 4 years later. The royal tradition of cousin marriages. Marrying within the family was a common practice among European royals, often used to solidify alliances and maintain pure bloodlines. Despite the genetic risks of inbreeding, this tradition persisted well into modern times. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, for example, were first cousins, sharing the same grandfather, Francis, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Their marriage, while politically advantageous, contributed to the spread of genetic disorders, such as hemophilia, within European royal families. Even in recent history, cousin marriages were not uncommon among royals. King George V and Queen Mary were second cousins, while Prince Charles and Princess Diana were distantly related, being seventh cousins once removed. Although the practice has become less frequent in contemporary royal families, it has left a lasting legacy of health issues among Europe's aristocracy. King Henry VII's paranoia. Kissing away poison. King Henry VII, the founder of the Tudor dynasty, was notorious for his extreme paranoia about assassination, particularly by poison. He employed food tasters to test his meals, but he also feared that poison could be absorbed through his skin. To protect himself, Henry ordered his servants to kiss his bed linens each morning after making his bed, ensuring that they had not been laced with poison. Similarly, his son Edward's clothing was subjected to thorough inspections before he wore it. New garments had to be washed and aired out in front of a fire to remove any potential toxins. Even Edward's chamber pot cushion was tested for poison. Bathing, a rare luxury for monarchs. In many royal households, bathing was considered dangerous, and as a result, some monarchs bathed infrequently. Queen Isabella of Spain famously claimed to have bathed only twice in her entire life. Queen Elizabeth I was known to bathe once a month, whether she needed it or not. Her successor, King James II and I, took it even further and reportedly never bathed at all. His aversion to water was so intense that his courtiers complained of lice infestations in the rooms he frequented. Sleeping with saints, the Spanish royals' bizarre healing ritual. The Spanish royal family took their devotion to religion to an extreme by sleeping with the relics of saints. Whenever a member of the royal family was gravely ill, doctors would bring the bones or body parts of saints from churches and place them in bed with the patient. The idea was that these holy relics would invoke divine healing powers and cure the sick. While this practice seems macabre by modern standards, it reflects the deep religious faith that permeated every aspect of royal life during this period. The lives of historical monarchs were often filled with rituals and practices that seem strange, if not horrifying, to us today. Whether it was Queen Elizabeth I poisoning herself with makeup, Elizabeth Bathory's gruesome quest for eternal youth, or the Spanish royals sleeping with saints, these bizarre habits reveal the complex and often superstitious nature of royal life. Despite their wealth and power, monarchs were not immune to fear of poison, illness, or even aging. These anxieties led them to adopt practices that, while aimed at ensuring their survival or securing their legacy, often had the opposite effect. The stories of these royals remind us that life behind palace walls was not always as glamorous as it appeared. In fact, many of these practices reveal a deep sense of insecurity and vulnerability, masked by the grandeur of royal ceremonies and traditions. As we look back on the lives of these rulers, we can appreciate the oddities that defined their reigns, even as we are grateful for the advances in medicine, hygiene, and governance that have made such practices a thing of the past.